Tell us why we're here, mother. You're the person. You're the person here.
Okay, so welcome to season 1, episode 1 of Off the Wire.
Off the wire.
So we chose Off the Wire because we're dealing with old newspaper stories and old newspapers and things that
Old
happened.
news in general.
Old news in general.
And news was delivered by wire back.
That's right.
We're very clever.
Very clever. We're very clever. Austin is my son.
She's my mom.
And we have lots of animated discussions, and we thought we would bring these animated discussions to you.
Specifically about old newspapers.
I'm a librarian.
I'm just, dude. I can't follow that up.
And that's what makes it fun. So one of the first things that I saw today when I was researching my newspapers, I decided to go with Hendricks County Republican from January 5th, 1882.
1882.
It's a very long time ago, and they were talking about life's opportunities. And since this is season 1, episode 1, this is all about our new opportunity with this podcast. It says, life is, in a great degree, what we make it. We are not to sit passively awaiting the good time, but we are to strive with a mighty strength of purpose to make of ourselves examples of goodness, wisdom, integrity, and high moral courage, so that when the end shall come, we shall feel that we have not lived in vain. And how shall we succeed if we heedlessly pass by life's precious opportunities? Well, we would not enforce upon our readers the necessity of grasping great opportunities alone from it, or do the little drops of water make the restless ocean? And where the desert but for the little grains of sand? So is that little opportunities for doing good, little lessons that may at present seem so unimportant, help materially to lay the foundation for a great and useful life? And it goes on just a bit about thinking and leaving impressions upon the mind. And it asks you in the end, well, how important then that we improve every opportunity to make our lives a blessing to others? And so I think that with this podcast, we might have the opportunity to make our lives a blessing to others.
I think the craziest thing about like reading these old stories, and that kind of reminds me of it, is like people have been saying the same stuff forever.
Yes.
That's the same stuff that every motivational speaker ever is saying. And it's like 1880 in just a newspaper.
Yes.
You could have paid 3 cents and gotten that, but no. there's the people that go out and pay hundreds of dollars for.
Well, and that's what it says.
You know.
This influence has great power. We have great power.
We do.
Even today. So that's how I thought we would start.
Great power. We're spreading the word.
With great power. Yes, we are. So I hear you have a wonderful news story for us.
Yeah, so I'll start. I think my story is going to be the longest, but it's pretty wild. This is from Crawfordsville Daily Journal. They ran a daily newspaper every day but Sunday from like 1890 to 1894, which is actually, it turns out to be like a lot of newspapers.
That's a lot of news.
It's a lot of news, and it's weird because Crawfordsville's not that big of a city. Crawfordsville, Indiana is in northwest Indiana. Population, I don't know what the population is this time, but it's not that big.
Oh, no, not
Like,
compared to the counties around it.
Under 50,000 now in Crawfordsville, I'd say.
I would agree with you.
So it's like back then, this is 1890. They had a newspaper that was running every day. So because they were running a newspaper every day, they would have like national news stories,
Off the
international,
wire.
yeah, off the wire, and international news stories. So this is the story, October 20th, 1890.
Which has significance for you.
October 20th is my birthday. But October 20th, 1890, running them down, New Orleans officials after Chief Hennessy's assassins. The mayor's ringing manifesto. Cowardly methods of the Mafia.
Cowardly.
New Orleans, October 20th, at a special meeting of the council at noon Saturday, Mayor Shakespeare's message was read. It is as follows. It was with the profoundest grief and indignation that I make you the official announcement of the death of David C. Hennessy, superintendent of the police in the city, grief at the loss of a true friend and an efficient officer, indignation that he should have died by the hands of despicable assassins. He was waste and riddled with bullets almost at his doorstep on Wednesday night, and he died on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. The circumstances of the cowardly deed, the arrests made, and the evidence collected by the police department has shown beyond doubt that he was the victim of Sicilian vengeance wreaked upon him as the chief representative of law and order in the community.
Dun dun dun.
This guy was assassinated by the Mafia in New Orleans.
And it made it all the way to Crawfordsville.
And apparently we're talking about it in Crawfordsville. You think about Mafia, right?
New Orleans is not really where
it's not. No, you're thinking about Chicago
yes.
during Prohibition. Like, Prohibition is not happening right now. Alcohol is legal.
Maybe that's the problem.
What are they doing? They're just doing normal business illegally. They're just like, what are you trading? I'm just gonna kill anybody that tries to do that except for me. It's not even like they found an illegal object that they're trying to sell. They're just doing normal business, and anybody that competes with them, like, you better not.
We'll kill you.
We'll kill you. And they decided to assassinate the guy who was the head of police.
I'm going to assume that as you read on, we'll find out why.
It's a long story. We'll skip down a little bit. None of them have ever been convicted because of the secrecy with which the crimes have been committed and the impossibility of getting to convict. Bold indeed was the stroke at their first American victim, a shining... So it sounds like they were just a bunch of Italians in New Orleans.
Wreaking havoc.
On each other. Like, it was like two, they were fighting for the same business, and they're just like...
The same pizza parlor.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. It is clear to me that the wretches who committed this foul deed are mere hirelings and instruments of others higher and more powerful than they. These instigators are the men who we must find at any cost. For years past the existence of Silhouette Society. I'm not a bad reader, by the way.
I love
very
all
hard
these
to read this.
adjectives and adverbs that they...
Oh, they're filling the page.
And these were typeset. You realize they had to typeset these letters one at a time, and they still managed to use all of this flowery language.
There was definitely a bad relationship between the typesetter and the guy writing. It's like, he comes in with all these man, why can't you just say, guy assassinated by Mafia? That's it. That's the whole story. If we want to, keep track of what the mayor said, right? That's important. But, like, I've got, 3 pages of this. It goes down the whole paper. That guy's sitting back there like, these authors, man, they can't just shut up.
And now we can type it. Our stories have gotten so much less.
It's much easier now. But these guys, you're right. There's definitely a poor relationship between those two people in the back room. We're not even halfway through this story because they just keep going on.
The narrative is there.
Oh, yeah. They go on about the investigation. I adopted a committee of 50 appointed by the mayor to lead the investigations, whatever. Pretty much, they talk about the mayor was appointed on the fact that apparently that they had known about this Mafia activity, and the mayor ran on he's going to clean up the city.
Oh.
And then they
killed
so the mayor put this guy in this position, superintendent of police, because he wanted to clean up crime, and then the Mafia killed that guy. So the whole town is just upset. They're very mad at it.
And isn't he a beloved member of society in their community too?
Oh yeah, they seem to love him a lot. Mr. Shakespeare, the mayor, says that this will not deter him from doing his duty. They have allocated $50,000 to assist in the work.
That was a lot of money back then.
That is a lot of money. I mean, it's New Orleans, so it's a big town, I'm just trying to skim through this. That's about it. Realistically, they talk more about how the Mafia worked.
So these were 2 families, right? These were 2 quarreling families?
Yeah. I'm trying to look for the names. Oh, here it is. The Provenzanos, who had been convicted of lying in wait to murder the Matrongas on test. So there was this court case happening between the Provenzanos and the Matrongas. Basically, one was accused of killing the other.
Oh, shocking.
Police guy goes overseas, back to Italy.
I think that's
to visit.
incredible.
Yeah.
You realize
In
back
1890, the police chief takes a trip to Italy to investigate the mafia in New Orleans
I just think that's fantastic.
when there's a pending trial, and he goes to Italy to get evidence from the mafia in Italy to convict one mafia family in New Orleans. Like, how is this not a movie?
Because didn't
In 1890, that's like a month trip to get there and back.
Oh yeah.
And the evidence.
But didn't the original mafia guy get
So,
escaped Italy from a trial?
I looked up a little bit about this, and we talked a little bit about it before. There was this guy. Basically the mafia was in Italy, and then like 10 years before all of this happens, Italy gets really hard on the mafia that's there. So they start, immigrating to America, and these families are tight. They keep it going. And there was like the main mafia. One of the dudes comes to New Orleans, Giuseppe Esposito, if I remember from my research.
I love that name.
And
Giuseppe.
After Hennessy gets put as the police chief, he catches this guy who is an international fugitive at this point. So random police guy in New Orleans extradites Giuseppe Esposito, back to Italy, where he gets put on a life sentence. This causes turmoil in the mafia in New Orleans between the Provenzanos and the Matrangos, who were the two main families working with the Italian mafia, who are now fighting for leadership and ownership. So now there's a mafia civil war in New Orleans with a police chief who is now going to Italy to get evidence on this guy. And this is why one of the two families just killed him and brought, like, on his way home. Just assassinated him in the middle of the street.
Like, he was just so progressive for his time.
I mean, he was. His dad was part of... So he's in New Orleans. I looked up his dad was an officer in the Louisiana Union military.
Wow.
So when the Union troops came in and took over, he joined with them, the Union side of the army, not the Confederate, and then he was working as a Union officer
in New Orleans.
In New Orleans. That was his father.
That seems a little bit.
And because of the time period, the Union Army was basically the police force in the South, because you couldn't really trust anyone else to do the policing.
Huh.
So this guy was kind of born into the system of policing. It's just a crazy story. And I read that and I'm like, this is a Crawfordsville newspaper. You got like 50 corn farmers. They're reading, like, oh, you hear about the assassination? There's a mafia in New Orleans. What's going on in our country?
You just hear the dinner table conversation about this story. The dinner table
conversation in Crawfordsville, Indiana. Tiny town, just farmers, right? And they're reading about an assassination in New Orleans. And it's like, I don't know, that just seems like an interesting demographic shift there.
But this Hennessy guy,
what a cool dude,
was
just
really just an interesting guy, because you first caught wind of what he did when he was 17?
Well, okay, so there's this story. If you look up David C. Hennessy, I believe it's C is the middle name, but David Hennessy, you go to his Wikipedia page, and I can't find the article that this relates to, but in the Wikipedia page it says when he was like 20 or 22 working for the police, he found an active robbery of two like grown men. He's like my age, 20, 22, and he just goes in there and beats them with his bare hands and then drags them off into the police, which is the most like movie thing I've ever heard. You know what I mean? So what a crazy guy. And I don't know how much of this is all true. I mean, it's old newspaper. They were, famously just exaggerating everything.
Don't we just do that today?
I mean, yeah, but it's more verifiable today. You can normally find the real thing today.
True.
Versus I can't look back and find the real truth. But what a crazy dude. And this guy, the story made it to Indiana. Just in random Crawfordsville newspaper.
So it makes me wonder what else we're going to find as we begin this journey through old newspapers.
I bet
we're going to just see some really notorious people.
Yeah, I mean, you learn about, like, the mafia in Chicago in school. Like, that's history, right? But there's a lot of these, like, historical things that were, like, big for, like, a week, and you just never learn about ever. So it'll be weird to see as we go through the newspapers and see these international stories that were big for, like, a week.
Right.
And why we never, or what was significant about it, or what's cool about it.
Well, true crime
I mean, yeah,
I mean,
there's got to be, you could do a true crime thing on this whole story. Just, there's so many crazy aspects to it where you're following a mafia that started with Italians all immigrating away from authority in Italy who was tired of them, coming
because
to
they thought that the new
America.
world would just have less authority.
Oh, well, then this guy
Then
just.
they met Hennessy.
Yeah, then they met this guy. It was just an absolute unit against crime. So we'll see. We'll see what we find more of. But I want to look more into this guy because, and specifically the Matrangas and the Provenzanos, because what a crazy story about the mafia in America before Prohibition.
Oh, right.
What
right.
industry were they fighting for? Like,
right. Well, free drugs.
I don't know. So I guess I'll look more into it, but we'll see. Do you want to go next on a story
Well,
from your paper? Or I got some stuff we can look at, but.
Well, I would like to have a conversation because you know how I feel about your mustache and your beard. I think you look awful.
This is a great transition. Just making fun of me. Putting me down.
It's what I do. It's what I do.
I guess. Let's hear it.
But this, once again, I chose to look at a paper, just one paper, and find out what crazy stuff was in this one paper.
What's going on?
So once again, Hendricks County Republican in 1882 had this expose about mustaches and how there is a great deal of character in the mustache. And
can't have character if you don't have it. That's what I'm saying.
Is that what you're going with?
That's what
you're going with?
I don't want to hear what the story has to say. I've already decided.
So it says, as the form of the upper lip and in the regions about it have largely to deal with the feelings, pride, self-reliance, manliness,
definitely,
vanity, and other qualities, or the reverse. When the mustache is ragged and, as it were, flying hither and thither, there is a lack of proper self-control. And I know that you don't groom your face, so maybe it does go hither and thither.
It's saying if I have an unkept mustache, that is a window into my soul. And
yes.
Saying that I'm an unkept person.
Yes. No proper self-control.
The problem is.
No.
I don't think I could deny that. I think every time I've had my mustache, it's been like bad. I've just been at a down bad state.
I agree. Because it says, when it is straight and orderly, the reverse is the case.
Yeah.
But, other things, of course, need to be taken into account.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have this full article in the paper.
Imagine actually advising people that, it's the mustache check. Is the mustache kept or not? I mean, that's a good guy. I'll let him marry my daughter. His mustache is kept.
That's part of how they judged people back then. So it says, if there is a tendency to curl at the outer ends of the mustache, there is a tendency to ambition, vanity, or display. When the curls turn upward, there is geniality combined with love of probation. When the curls turn downward, there is more a sedate turn of mind, not unaccompanied with gloom. I would think that would mean thoughtful.
No, that's bad. You want it to curl up, is what they're saying. They're saying up. Up's a good guy. That's ambition.
Down is not.
You can't keep this guy down. Even his mustache goes up.
That's what
it's saying.
They truly believe it's all in how you curl your mustache.
To be fair, back then, having a kept mustache had to be like way more work. Like I would say this I would say holds true especially now. If you are unkept, like it's not as hard as like this is 1880s, man. Like you're taking a razor blade to your face.
It's scary.
You know what I mean? Like you're risking death shaving your face in 1880. Somebody, your blade's rusty. It's like, oh, you got problems if you actually cut yourself. Nowadays, it's like, I could shave in like 10 minutes, and I don't do.
And I don't. It's electronic, and
it's not hard. I still just like, you know what? Raggedy.
So, the reverse quality is well indicated by the common portrait of Shakespeare. who was as much noted for cheerfulness and geniality in life as those qualities are manifested in his writings.
So they're saying it was the power of Shakespeare came from the mustache.
And I guess never thought of Shakespeare and cheerfulness.
Well,
Have you watched Hamlet?
he did write a few comedies.
Romeo and Juliet?
That's not a comedy. That was a tragedy.
I
He wrote tragedies and comedies.
don't think so. It's all a tragic. So it's worthy of remark that good-tempered men will, in playing with the mustache, invariably give it an upward inclination.
Ah, so it's
Whereas
if you hit the thinker very often when you're just like playing with
you're
it,
going up.
it's going
It has to
up,
go
and
up.
that means you're a smart guy because that means you're thinking on the regular. You hit this pose, you're bound for success. That's what it's going
That's
down
what
to.
it's saying,
It's not the mustache. It's if you play with it, which means if you're deep in thought all the time,
You better go up.
it better be going up if you're playing with it.
Because it says, whereas cross-grained and morose men will pull it obliquely, I don't know, downward.
Hmm.
So
Oh, they're
that's
just sad.
the mustache story.
The mustache droop is so sad.
Yes.
It's good.
So I really wanted to diss you on your unkept self-control.
You just don't like my facial hair anyways. I feel like even if I kept it, you would not be like, oh, a gentleman has approached me. You'd still like, look at my son with his stupid facial hair. I can't win with you. I can't win with you.
That's why you love me.
Yeah. All right. A paper from the 18. It's not going to be like the most
I
politically correct
did
thing.
skip some of those stories that maybe
Yeah.
should not be read
There's an
today.
ad here. I'm just going to read it, right? And I want you to guess what the product is. I'm going to read every word in here. And I want you to
Okay.
guess what the product is.
Okay.
Well-bred, soon wed. That's a giant in quotes. Well-bred, soon wed. Girls who use Sapolio are quickly married. Sapolio is one of the best-known luxuries, and each time a cake is used, an hour is saved. On floors, tables, and painted work, it acts like a charm. For scouring pots, pans, and metals, it has no equal. If your storekeeper does not keep it, you should insist upon him doing so, as it always gives satisfaction, and its immense sale all over the United States makes it an almost necessary article to any well-supplied store. Everything shines after its use, and even the children delight in using it in their attempts to help around the house.
And that's the
That's the ad.
the ad.
What is Sapolio?
409.
I'm thinking it's literally just a bar of soap. Like it comes in a cake.
It is a cake.
And it's used on floors, tables, pots, pans, metals. I'm thinking it's literally like some equivalent of a bar of soap.
I would agree with you. You've seen those movies where they've got like their bucket and they've got this rope up.
Yeah.
Soap-a-dope.
So what this ad is claiming is that by using their bar of soap, you can be quickly married.
Well, you know.
That's the
There's
only thing.
nothing better than soap.
What else does a girl want? You know what I mean? Getting married for the price of a $1 bar of soap, maybe? I think it's less than that. But all you need is a bar of soap, you can get married.
Well,
Isn't that your only goal in life?
Yeah, just to be that clean housewife. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well-bred, soon wed.
What a slogan.
What a slogan. And then immediately, girls who use Sapolio are quickly married. There's dad sitting at home like, yes.
Well,
yes, I found it.
I will ask your fiance if
she's not using Sapolio.
I don't
know if I can buy an engagement ring.
Yeah,
Like,
she's not going to be allowed to live
like,
with
what's
us.
going on? Okay. I mean, again, just absurd language. You know, I guess they knew how to target their audience. You know, back then,
It was all
wife's
about
just
being
trying to
married.
get married. It's a cleaning product. How does the wife get married? Cleaning better. That's the only thing that matters.
Oh, you wait.
Improving your personality,
there are so
dressing
many
nice.
things in these newspapers about how to get married, how to wed, how to find a wife, how to kill the wife.
I think
It's
we need to
kind of
bring
one of
that
those
back.
things too. I cannot wait to discuss some of these
Hear me
topics
out.
that I have found.
I think women today don't know how to please a man like they did back then. They
Oh
don't have
my.
enough. They don't have enough.
Oh
They're
my.
not reading enough articles written by men.
He's never going to get married.
It's absurd. The other thing that is universally available in these newspapers is snake oil salesman.
Oh, of course.
If you got a problem, they've got a product. And the big one I have here, it's even got a picture. We'll probably put it in the video. Dr. Kilmer's Ocean Weed, the perfect blood purifier. Heart remedy.
Ocean weed.
It's the perfect blood purifier. Symptoms and conditions. This specific will relieve and cure if your heart thumps after sudden effort.
Wow.
That's number one.
I'm going to need this ocean weed.
Have you ever raised your heart rate during exercise? You need drugs.
Well.
That's a problem. You got to fix that. Are you getting an increased heart rate during exercise? Buy our stuff.
Wow.
They're appealing to every human on the planet. They're just masters of marketing here. If it skips, beats, or flutters, if you have heart disease, faint spells, fits, or spasms, if you feel as though water was gathering around your heart, or have heart drops, if you have vertigo, dizzy attacks, ringing in the ears, disposed to nervous prostration, shock, or sudden death. If you have sudden death...
Wow, I'll be ready with that ocean weed.
This is going to bring you back. If you have neuralgia, numbness in the arms or limbs, darting pains like rheumatisms, ocean weed prevents it going to the heart.
And if you read the ad all the way down to the end,
yeah,
are you a well person?
I don't know, man. And it's $1 for the whole extra large bottle. It's from a company in New York who's sitting there, you know, they got this pill that they made for $0.01, and they're like, all right, how do we sell this? It does everything. It's just, again, and this occurs everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
I've got, just to read the headings: to cure heart disease, to cure a bad cough, use Dr. Kilmer's cough cure, use Dr. Kilmer's ocean weed heart. Dr. Kilmer cured everything.
There are pages.
Are you dying in 20? They cured everything in 1890.
Yes.
How are you dying in 2022?
Was also cured.
Heart disease kills millions of people like every year in America. That's like one of the biggest things.
Well, water on the heart. That's what you take blood pressure pills for.
They figured it out in 1888 or 1890. Mm-hmm. Imagine dying in 2022 to that.
It's amazing. I don't know how that still happens.
Just saying. This is true. This is fact. It was in a newspaper. Right?
And we know that everything that we read is fact.
It is.
Fact.
So if you have heart disease, this is medical advice, but please find some Dr. Kilmer's ocean weed.
If you need answers to an ailment, we can find it in these papers.
Tell us your medical problems,
and we'll find ads for you.
The solution in old newspapers, because they solved it. I can assure you, we'll find your problem because they've solved everything.
They have pages of solutions.
Oh, I thought I was reading like an advice column at first, because it was like, it's like for everything. You know, it's like, oh, if you have this problem, you know, but then it's a product placement. I thought I found a whole page of advice. And I was like, oh, this is just an advice column that dude's made. No, it's ads. The whole page was ads.
Yes.
And it was written to look like an advice column where it's like, oh, this is, you know, helpful advice for when you have heart disease.
Did you see all of the ads that had the finger points? And like each line had the finger pointing to them, and I thought, what is that? But they have
the graphic is amazing.
Oh, it's awesome! It's on every paper. Like you have all these fingers. Like this is supposed to be check mark.
It's all true.
So speaking of being all true, I have a story for you. Because this is a rum seller's story.
A rum seller's story. Still legal at the time.
Still legal, but they have decided. He decided to shutter his business.
Oh no. The rum seller went out.
Yes. He's a man named Stacy, the owner of a splendid drinking saloon in New York. Mm-hmm. He recently signed the pledge and closed his house. Hearing that a party of lads had formed themselves into a temperance society, he went to them and gave them his experience as a rum seller. And this is his story.
He went to a what?
A temperance meeting. Because a bunch of lads.
Temperance meeting?
So a bunch of lads had gathered in support of alcohol continuing to be sold.
Okay.
And so he was going to explain to them why he shuttered his business and stopped selling.
Oh, is this like a moral story?
Yes, it is. Because
This is against
you're
alcohol.
22.
This is a pro-prohibition
So he's 20,
story.
he's 22, and so of course mustache and now this rum seller.
You really just found a newspaper so that you could hate on my lifestyle. You just wanted to critique me. You wanted to be a mother today.
All of you moms out there, you know what I did.
You just found any reason to critique me today. I'm coming here with stories that I think are interesting. You're like, this is perfect. I'm gonna make fun of you the whole time.
I certainly am. And so Mr. Stacy is his name.
Uh-huh.
He sold liquor for 11 years. It was long enough for him to see the beginning and the end of its effects. He says, I have seen a man take his first glass of liquor in my place and afterward fill the grave of a suicide. I have seen man after man, wealthy and educated, come into my saloon who now cannot buy his dinner. I can recall 20 customers worth $100,000 to $500,000 who are now without money or place or friends.
It's funny because the framing of this story doesn't make it seem like he started their alcoholism. It made it sound like they were alcoholics. They started going to him, then they lost.
He was a fantastic rum
He
seller.
was doing something specifically predatory.
He was very
to
good.
ruin these lives.
He was very good. He warned the boys against entering saloons on any pretext. Don't go.
Don't go.
He stated that he had seen many young fellows come with friends and wait while he drank. No, no, they would say. I never touch it. That's all the same. So one would take a glass of cider or harmless lemonade. He said they started out harmless, but he knew how it would end. The only safety for boys, for any man, no matter how strong his resolutions, is outside the door of a saloon. So if you don't want to lose everything, even if you think just lemonade is going to let you be okay.
Lemonade at the bar is what did it in.
You will
Starts
still...
lemonade, next thing, killed yourself. Oh,
yes.
Life ruined.
Yes.
It's over.
Yes. I mean, the rum seller is saying this.
It's funny because we know what happened during, like, we're looking at this in hindsight. We know that Prohibition happened.
Yes.
And it was just an overwhelming failure everywhere.
Yes.
To make that happen, and that it was just an awful thing for society in general.
Why is that?
What do you mean? Because we don't, okay.
But you know, I guess if you look at 2022,
For
okay?
context.
Okay,
for context.
wait. If you look at 2022 and the whole marijuana debate,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what the alcohol debate was back in the 1800s. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, except for the other way around, where they were looking to make it illegal and it's starting out illegal.
Right.
As we stand.
Right.
For context, my mother and my father are both straight edge people. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they do meth sometimes, but you know that's
on an occasion.
It's Indiana, so that's like normal.
It's
here.
a thing here.
But I drink occasionally, not often.
It's
remotely,
awful.
Mainly because I don't have friends to party
awful.
with. But that's neither here nor there.
It's awful.
I mean, yeah, drinking just tastes bad. But
I don't understand the calories.
If you could ban alcohol, I mean, it wouldn't affect you.
That's right.
So
I'm not going to waste the money or the calories on it. Because I am fun enough without it.
Wow. You truly are, Mom. Life of every party I've ever been to.
I know, right?
You did know how to throw a great party when I was in 3rd grade. It might be a bit different today. Can you imagine bringing your mom to a party when you're 22 at like college? A college party? You want to come to the bars?
You know, I would be the life of the party.
It would certainly be an interesting experience. But yeah, that story is clearly like extremely flamboyantly just anti-alcohol propaganda.
Well, absolutely.
It's not that's
yeah.
Just,
I mean, is this really a true story, right? You can't.
Every man that's ever been in my bar died. Every single one financially ruined in months.
Yeah, I'm not so sure this is a true story.
This guy's bar,
Mr. Stacy,
was possessed by the devil. The devil was in there. Like
everyone.
Every man that ever entered.
Cider and lemonade still brought him to the pit of despair.
Yes. It's a very close step. Apple cider, pit of despair. It's right, very close.
Well, I have have you ever heard of the Great Maine Snake?
Is this a story from Maine?
Well, no, it's in the Hendricks County
Yeah, but where?
Republican.
And the story's from Hendricks County. Does it say?
You know, it really doesn't say. Well,
Well,
Chain Lake.
Chain Lake.
I didn't look where Chain Lake was.
We can figure it out. But
Yes.
just read the story.
Yes, yes. So Mr. Hall and Mr. William Libby of St. Stephen were laying out a logging chance on the land of William Duran. I love how they do all these introductions. I mean, it's incredible. You don't need that much information. It was a beautiful day. The breeze was rippling over the water. I mean, oh my gosh.
They're really putting you there.
They
the
really
writers, the writers in 1880 whatever.
They really did.
They thought they were writing novels. Like
Yes.
they were preparing for a book.
Yes. Oh, this could be a story. Yes, of course, because they went to the shore to take their lunch, but Mr. Libby soon noticed a peculiar. Everybody loves that word peculiar because you can't say it.
Peculiar.
Yes, that word. Noise, which seemed at first to issue out of the woods, but next came from the direction of a cove above. Once again, there's just a lot of. I heard a noise in the woods. Why can't we just say that? Nope. Nope. And then we went for a while and he didn't hear it, and then when he could finally distinguish the sound, he remarked that there were some men up on the bridge, and so he thought it was that. But then he soon discovered out in the water an enormous snake with its head elevated 6 feet above the water. It came swiftly down the lake, facing the sun, until it reached a position just opposite the men at a distance less than a half a mile. It then stopped, throwing the middle part of its body out of the water in an arc, also 6 feet high. Its head, while it had before kept turning in the direction of the shore, then to the other, was pointed for a minute in the direction of Mr. Hall and his companion.
This is absurd.
Oh,
And it's
yes.
funny because it's like this is exactly how things like the Loch Ness monsters or Bigfoot started.
Oh yes.
This is just like, oh, it didn't hit main. This is the not mainstream version of that. This is the writer who sat down and he's talking to dudes who are telling him the story. He's like, oh, I need to make this. This is the next Loch Ness monster. This
yes.
is the Indiana Loch Ness monster.
Oh, because you just wait here. So they stood motionless because they were sure that it was going to eat them. But it said its speed was about a mile in 5 minutes, or 12 miles in an hour. They did the math for us. And its appearance while in motion is thus minutely described. It's only going to be described minutely from the next paragraph here. It says, from its head to the water was 6 feet. The next 20 feet or more of its form was underwater. Then some 12 feet of its back appeared above the surface to a height of above 16 inches. There's a lot of math in this. The remainder of its greater length was hidden from view, and propelling power was necessarily attached to the last named part. The entire body could not have been, why couldn't we just say this? The entire body could not have been under 50 feet long, and more likely was over 20 feet. The head at the broadest place could not have measured less than 2.5 feet across.
These guys are doing some insanely precise measuring with their eyeballs,
for being a half mile away.
You're half mile away, getting measurements down to 20 feet.
And while this enormous object is looking at you.
Oh yeah, you're seeing
the
Loch Ness monster, and you're just like, yeah, I'm thinking about 6 feet on the head and neck, 20 under. I mean, that's think about iceberg mechanics. There's at least 20 under the water.
Yeah, exactly. All the math they're doing.
These are just Indiana dudes at a lake, and they're just immediately calculating. Yeah, I believe it. This is definitely a true story.
So they say that its body, of course, by no means the largest, was as big as a pork barrel. What is that simile? As big as a pork barrel.
That sounds like a how kids would bully each other back then. Like if you
You're
were in
as
school.
big as a pork barrel.
that's the playground bullying in 1880.
They said
Jeffrey's a pork barrel.
They said that this thing would weigh 300 or 400 pounds.
Yeah, again,
Once
they
again,
can
math.
definitely measure that. Yeah.
The math. So Mr. Hall's theory is that the serpent travels and lives on land as well as water, and that its chief food consists of deer. So he believes that it was hungry and it smelled them, and it had just come out of the woods after a meal, and so it wasn't hungry.
They lived to tell the tale.
Yes, they lived, and so that's awesome.
We are reading these stories, and they're just the most absurd thing ever. Why can't modern local news be like
this? Awesome, right?
I want local news story. Why do we have to
do political garbage? Why can't we just
or even like the stuff that they normally do, where they're talking about, they talk about the weather all the time, which is useful, but they talk about that, talking about city councils and elections and zoning. And zoning or whatever's going on in the city. Crime even is not always the end. I want to see a guy do on the road reporting of like the new Bigfoot downtown Evansville.
Yes.
Yes. I'm here on the streets with this crazy homeless man who says he has seen Bigfoot roaming the streets of Evansville. Tell me what you have to say. I saw this crazy monster just walking the street. He went into the bar, came out. I mean, it could have just been a really hairy man. I don't know, but I saw it. He was walking, and then he just assaulted me, and I didn't know what was going on. Walked away. He was at least 6'7".
Start doing the math.
6'7", 200 pounds, walking about 5 miles an hour going down the street. But then he broke into a sprint. It looked like he broke the speed limit going down.
He had been wearing those 14-foot running shoes.
My brain keeps turning. I want to hear the fake news, modern day news story. I'm man on the street, just there, delivering the news story as if it was real, trying to sell people on the story.
So the funny part of this, along that line, is he says that people are saying that I said that there were scales and eyes as big as saucers, and I could tell nothing of its eyes, and I don't know if it had scales. So he's going back off on the media.
This is the counter argument. They're like, oh, you're faking it. No, if I was faking it, I would have told you about the eyes. And I didn't do that. I told you about the body, which I would definitely be able to measure exact measurements of from half a mile away. Not the eyes, though.
Exactly, no.
If I was lying, I would have given you measurements on the eyes. That makes a lot of sense.
He did say that the monster wasn't frightened.
He knows. He did an emotional evaluation on a never-before-seen creature on the spot.
He did say that he didn't feel the need to run because the serpent had plenty of time to eat him if he so felt the need to. So,
he'd already contemplated life. He'd given up. Life flashed before his eyes.
Yes.
He knew it was over. Monster spared him. Now he is just.
But there's old Captain Louis who says that he saw it many years ago. In Passamaquoddy, the Passamaquoddy Indians have seen it in the Big Lake at various times. They say that John Williams and a crew of men saw it at the mouth of the Little River 29 years ago. And the description captured much attention.
Is that like a word-of-mouth story that kept going?
Yes, I think so.
Because there was no newspaper from that time.
But Mr. Hall says he wants to plan to capture the snake by tying a live horse on the shore of the lake as bait. He thinks that will prove successful, and then everyone will see that his description was carefully kept within the actual truth.
Just animal abuse. just tying a horse up on the side. Make it where he has to sit there all day. Everyone's waiting on this horse dying. It's like Scooby-Doo. They're horse sitting there like, come on, guys, why me?
So there's that sci-fi movie where Betty White puts the cow in front, and then the giant alligator comes up, and she calls, here, alligator, and he comes up and he eats the cow and drags it in.
Poor cow.
There's a sci-fi
movie. There's a sci-fi movie with Betty White doing that.
And she puts the horse at the edge of the water so that the giant crocodile will come and eat the cow, and it grabs it and pulls it in. Yeah.
Feeding alligators.
It's a Betty White thing.
That's crazy. Unbelievable thing ever.
Now, so you don't think that newspapers can work like social media, but I disagree.
So, before you get into yours, I was reading in mine, there was a literal section in the paper where it would just be like, Mrs. Smith went to Indianapolis today.
Yes.
And then it's like, and it's literally like, remember when Twitter came out, right? And all the advertisements were like, oh, just put what you had for lunch on.
Yes.
It was literally that. Where it's like, now Twitter is just like a cesspool of stuff that's, horrible. Like, your eyes are burning after you read what people have to say on Twitter now. But like when it started, all the ads were like, oh, just post what you had for lunch on there. This is like the newspaper equivalent back then where it's like, oh, Mr. Smith got back from Indianapolis today. He went there on a college visit to see his kid who was, attending school there.
John Smith's cousin.
And there's like a whole column, and it's everyone in the community who had traveled
Whatever
somewhere.
they did that week.
And it's like if they had kids that were at college, oh, we returned from Purdue this week. You know?
Yes. I found that very weird.
It was very strange. And it's like people are this is social media.
It was.
In a newspaper in 1890.
We'll have to touch more on that.
So what is this story
My
you
final call out for the social media. Okay.
Let's hear it.
So, in Danville, Indiana, we are positive that a certain class in Danville has been using our coal without lever license, and out of respect for their families, we have thus far hesitated to expose them. But if the act is repeated,
nothing is worse than getting your family exposed as dirty coal stealers.
Absolutely. We will be compelled to publish a full list of names and give a brief but pointed history of the business they are engaged in.
They're doing an expose on people in the community that are stealing rather than just going to them and being like, hey, stop that.
No.
They're threatening them in the paper.
Well, it's like Facebook today.
Yeah. It's when those guys who like pretend they have a hit piece on like some political figure and they're like, in 10 days, I'm going to reveal the devastating information I found on Nancy Pelosi.
Yes, that's exactly what this
Except for this is local scale. I'm going to reveal the devastating information about Mr. Smith's coal stealing activity.
You would not believe the amount of personal paragraphs about adulterers and notice to people that his wife had, done bad things, and they were just the amount of public shame in these papers.
The amount of tea that they're putting in, the amount of just like public, dirty laundry they just air in the paper.
They think Facebook is the only thing.
My wife cheated on me. Yeah, nowadays, wife cheats on me. Facebook, you're going on.
Yes.
Right. And
here's
back in the day, they'd still do that.
Yes.
They would go to the paper and be like, I'll pay you $10.
Yes.
I got $10. Write a scathing piece on my wife who's been sleeping around.
Yes. Oh, they have these personal paragraphs.
Yeah.
They have these ads. I don't think that people truly understand, and that's what we're going to touch on in this podcast. Truly understand the amount of scandalized stories.
Well, think about a world where there was no Facebook, right? Old people today, especially, people with too much money, too much time.
Did you see him look at me when he said that?
People with too much money, too much time are going on social media, and they're just airing their laundry now. And it's like talking to a wall, right? Because these people don't have followers. Like, realistically, like a few people are going to see it.
Right.
But back then, you could go to your local newspaper, and this is the local newspaper. There's stuff that's actually important to you there, right? You're reading this.
I'm beginning to wonder.
You're reading a few pages that actually matter to you. This is your only entertainment, even at the time. There's no TV. There's no radio. This is 1890.
Yes.
So you're airing out your dirty laundry, and everybody gets to see it.
Absolutely.
Anybody picking up this paper can be like, Mrs. Smith's doing that.
Oh, it's and the physicians, the number of physicians that would put in that they were helping kids and families and open a new business. And it's incredible.
I can cure anything and everything.
Yes, I can.
And if your kid died, it was God who did that, not me treating him with
I have a very
drugs.
interesting story for next time about that idea about just people who just didn't make it.
Yeah.
And my final ad for you today was the idea that you can get pure drugs for cash at the drugstore, along with your bonnets and your buggy oil.
They do everything at the drugstore.
Every.
I was reading. There was like the wanted ads. Those are interesting.
We'll have to do a segment on the want ads.
The one I saw one that was for like a whole horse and buggy. And I was like, what a deal. He's like, I got to sell it soon. I'll take $50 for the whole horse. I'm like, this is insane.
Did you read some of those want ads, wanting a wife?
Oh, one of them was like, the way it worded it, they wanted a house cleaner, which is a normal thing to want.
Well, you would think.
But it was like, I want a good girl. It was like, I was like, if you posted that today, that's so like sexual. Like it sounds, you can read it two ways. I need a good girl to clean my, I need a good girl who's going to clean my house right. I'll pay very well. Like the way you read it, I need you to clean all my property.
So as you can see, in this podcast, we have a lot of different angles that we're going to take.
These old newspapers are wild and they're going crazy.
So today was kind of just like an overview of what we found and we thought was interesting, but
There's
There's
more.
so
There's
much
so
more
much
coming.
I mean, the one paper I looked at from one little town in Indiana, not even like a big city, had a daily paper
Yes, this Hendricks
running
County.
for 4 years. That's over 1,000 issues. What are you putting in this paper?
It's absolutely crazy. So if you think about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of that information, you just wait. We'll be able to
This
show
stacks up. This
We-
gets close to the amount of content. Like there's
we
so
will
much.
be able to rival some of the topics that you're seeing today.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can definitely do it.
Are we signing off the wire?
I think we're signing off the wire.